Dodging thundering trucks and heavy holiday traffic didn't deter Jeremy Johns from giving his grandparents a special present this Christmas. He cycled over 600 kilometres for a visit.
I told a couple of friends that I wanted to ride down to Newcastle. Most of them laughed at me, but hey, I'm just having fun.
Jeremy doesn't dream of Olympic gold or international glory, though his goals are high.
I'd like to ride around Australia. Or near to it.
Just the thought of riding from Lismore to Newcastle would wear most people out. But with his head down from Monday, Jeremy has set a blistering pace. Like any grandparents, Nana and Pop Catlin were worried about Jeremy's ride down the Pacific, but the wait was worth it.
Tomorrow I'm going to just lie in bed.
David McElwain, NBN News.
"84-year-old Albie Bergen has won just about every major sailing title there is, including the Sydney to Hobart in 1961. He's contested the arduous Ocean Classic more than 30 times, and on Boxing Day he'll set sail again in his yacht, Alstar. If experience counts for anything, Albie can expect a great finish on handicap, and will also be hoping for better weather than last year. From racing on water to dirt, and there won't be much peace on earth at Newcastle Speedway on Sunday night when New South Wales takes on Queensland in the State of Origin Super Sedan Test. It replaces the traditional clash between Australia and America, but if rugby league is any indication, the encounter will still prove fiery. The program also features leader cars, street stocks and fender benders. Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
When Newcastle beat Perth 3-2 to break the club record of most consecutive wins, most thought Christmas had come early. But next on the wish list is Carlton, and the Breakers would love to finish the year with 5 wins on the trot.
Yeah, it's something that's obviously hasn't been done at the club before, so it'd be good to be part of that and something to sort of look back on once you stop playing, I suppose.
But the club is under no illusion as to how tough it will be to leave Melbourne with the points. The side flew south today with 3 training runs scheduled before the game.
Everyone sort of enjoys, Christmas, their food, family and stuff like that, but it's over, we've got to get back on the job.
There are no changes to the squad that beat Perth, with Glenn Sprod deciding to hold off surgery on his knee till the new year and will play. The team not wanting to disrupt its hot winning streak.
While we've got the momentum going, it's important we keep it.
What a way to shake off a Christmas Day hangover by extending it at the races. And good weather made for a bumper crowd, easily the best of the year. And for those who still had some cash left over from Christmas, there was always someone about to help relieve them of it. It was also a good day for Robbie O'Davis. After being slowed up by a foot injury, his galloper Pimpala Luck brought the flashy fullback some good fortune of his own, winning its first race today. It came through a family combination, jockey Matthew Scorse aboard the horse trained by his father Alan. And a return to the track for classy Max Lee's trained filly Shalt Not. She galloped today in a trial with stablemate Princess Marwena ahead of a coming campaign in Melbourne.
Princess Marwena, she's a nice 2-year-old. She's only had 2 starts, and we're setting her for the William Inglis Classic late in January, but the other filly Shalt Not, she'll have a run within the next fortnight and then head to Melbourne for the Triple Crown Series.
Those 3 races boast around $2 million in prize money, and Lees can't see much getting past Shalt Not in this preparation.
We've been fortunate. We didn't take her to Melbourne in the spring. She's had a good break, so she's going to be hard to beat down there in anything she runs in.
In his first state super sedan team, teenager David Robinson was getting pushed around. Although Australian champion Ron Pine was giving the Queenslanders a run for their money in the early heats, the visitors kept racking up the points. But the home side pegged back the margin soon after with a little bit of luck to lead after the first round of heats.
Blink 182 and the red hot chili peppers.
Queensland skipper John Leslie then felt the squeeze of a Pine Brothers sandwich pushed out the back thanks to John and Ron. But the current Aussie champ was given some of his own treatment as the Northerners fought back. While that might have been a bit premature, Pine soon made a permanent exit for the night in spectacular fashion. After that spin, it was always going to be tough for the Blues. Queensland just too good, winning 38-36.
In pre-flight checks of light planes, special attention is being paid to fuel. Steve Gilmore is a recreational pilot, but his immediate flying future is limited.
I can't fly with the fuel that's in this airplane. As soon as that fuel's finished on this one, that's it, it's kaput.
BP supplies Rutherford Aerodrome in the Hunter Valley, but Bowsers are banned while pilots wait for the Avgas 100-130 to be tested. Technicians were due to arrive today but didn't. It isn't known whether the avgas used here will cause the fuel blockages and loss of power already experienced by some pilots. Short trips can be made on safe supplies, but as time goes on the situation is becoming worse. More planes will be grounded. At Rutherford, 200 light aircraft were expected for a fly-in during the week before New Year's, but the proposed campsite is empty.
The fuel has been the major factor to the fact that we've got no aircraft here whatsoever.
The big problem is for those who want to refuel after flying in from interstate.
We're not sure whether it's contaminated or not, but we're banned from using it, so we obviously can't supply it, and that's going to be a bit of a drama getting people home again.
Dakotas taxiing in and hats galore. A scene from Indiana Jones? No, just another day in the Hunter Valley. Pecolbin is host to a group of world-wise travellers in search of adventure. Part of an annual event organised from Hong Kong, the vineyards were chosen above every other destination in the world.
These people, of course, know all about five-star, but I think this is kind of like backpacking for grown-ups who have hats. It's rather different from the normal way of doing things. A lot more fun, I have to say.
Organised by an expat, Australia was chosen as the ideal place to celebrate the millennium. But there's a week of partying first.
We try never to let people not have a drink in their hand, which makes the Hunter a terrific place to start.
Nightclub owners from Harare, stockbrokers making a living as choreographers, lawyers and the man from Bermuda wearing what else but Bermuda shorts. They joined their tourmates from Switzerland, Brazil, England, China and North Vietnam for the first stop on the itinerary, oysters and bubbly at Peterson's Champagne House.
We're obviously attracting the sort of people to the Hunter that are serious holidayers and seriously interested in wines. That's what it seems to me. So we're really pleased they've chosen us.
On Thursday, December 28, 1989, Newcastle was literally shaken to its foundations. Just before 10:30, a quake measuring 5.5 on the Richter scale struck without mercy, killing 13 people. People gathered today in Civic Park under the shadow of the town hall clock that chimed once for each of the victims.
Our remembrances are very clear, and few of us escaped without some scar, slight perhaps, but very real.
Family and friends of those who died paid tribute by throwing lilies on the pool of reflections. Richard Bradley lost his mother, Marie March, in the crumbled Workers' Club.
Just saying goodbye, I think. Finally saying goodbye.
Catherine McMahon's husband Cyril was killed when a shop awning collapsed on him in Beaumont Street at Hamilton. She welcomed today's service.
I think it's great. Yeah, I do. I think I wouldn't like it every year, but I think for today, yes. I think people need it. They need to come to terms with things if they haven't already done so. But to just have a quiet reflection.
Ambulance paramedic Bruce Hounslow was among the first to treat victims.
I thought I might have been over it, but I still had a few tears in my eyes. It's something you'll never get over. There's probably not a day goes past that you don't think of people, the rescuers that risked their lives and to try and save other people.
John McNaughton was Lord Mayor at the time.
I think it's the resilience of the people of Newcastle and the fact that we do know how to look after one another, and we did that. We did it very well. We took care of each other, and I think the city's moved on and it is a better place, and it's moving forward.
With just a small group turning out today to remember the events of a decade ago, it seems that most Novocastrians are content to simply try and forget. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
It's not long past Christmas, but little Ashley Scott can hardly raise a smile. She was playing with her sister near their home in Swansea yesterday when a vicious dog ruined their afternoon fun.
She was riding a bike up and down the street with Natasha, and she come off and the Rockwheeler attacked her, bit her on the face, and the bloke that owned the dog picked her up and brought her down home.
It was a Rottweiler like this one which launched itself at Ashley's head as she lay helpless on the ground. Her shocked parents say the dog easily weighed more than their daughter, and only the helmet she wore saved her life.
She's quite lucky she had a stack hat on. There was no nerve damage or anything done, so it's a bonus. Just get over the scar now.
The owner of the Rottweiler had it put down immediately. He has apologised to Ashley and her family. The RSPCA says the attack highlights the need for owners to take responsibility for their dogs and to keep them confined or on a leash, especially with so many children running around during the school holidays. David McElwain, NBN News.
Two of the form teams in the National Soccer League, the clash between Carlton and Newcastle was always going to be close. The Breakers had their chances to put points on the board, as did the home side, but the physical encounter only provided plenty of exercise for the defenders and ended in a 0-0 draw. Still, the Breakers were happy to arrive home with a point today, the club's first on Carlton's home turf. The players didn't escape unscathed, however, with some carrying niggling injuries, and Brad Witcherak heading straight to the physio after an awkward on-field fall.
In comparison to yesterday, it feels a lot better. I don't think it's as bad as I first thought, so yeah, I'll just see the physio today and hopefully I'll be alright.
He's since been diagnosed with a strained knee ligament and is in doubt for the game against Sydney United on Sunday. Newcastle is now equal 6th on the ladder.
Everybody loves a colourful fireworks display, no matter how big or small. But the flashes of light mask the dangers, and many people are letting off illegally bought crackers without knowing the consequences.
I think they're stupid because A, they're endangering themselves and other people, they're breaking the law, they'll get a fine if they get caught, and they just don't realise that, you know, there's a lot at stake here.
Firecrackers can be legally bought over the counter as long as the buyer is over 18 and holds a permit issued by WorkCover. Those without a licence face an $11,000 fine, not to mention risking serious injury.
Our main concerns is that firecrackers are a lethal item and they can damage and maim people.
The Fire Brigade advises to clear the area of flammable materials before letting off crackers and wearing protective clothing. It also suggests keeping animals away from explosives to avoid frightening or injuring them. Dr Maguire will be working in Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital on New Year's Eve and has already seen firsthand the legacy left by explosives.
I've seen people with fingers blown off. More often eye injuries. A bunga that goes off very close to the eye can cause a concussion injury to the eye and temporary or even permanent blindness.
Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
Whatever your plans for tomorrow night, they'll have gone wrong if you end up being driven through the gates of the Mater Hospital, bound for its toxicology unit. There's a tremendous amount of pressure on everyone to bring in the millennium with a night to remember. But going too far could make it a night to forget, according to the Hunter Centre for Health Advancement.
It's built up to be a big night, and it should be a really terrific night, but people should plan what they're going to drink. They should take lots of water with them wherever they're going and try and alternate the alcohol drinks with water or other soft drinks just so they can pace themselves through the night.
The Mater Hospital is gearing up to take specialist care of people who abuse drugs and alcohol on the big night, but the best policy is to avoid the place altogether.
Unfortunately, the emergency departments are often overcrowded on nights like that, dealing with people with drug and alcohol problems, and I think people should be aware of that and think twice before they experiment with anything.
While the people of the Hunter took this afternoon off to prepare for New Year's Eve, the region's emergency services have been preparing themselves for the Millennium Bug. The police, ambulance and fire services have joined together with representatives from AGL, Energy Australia, the SES and local government to set up an emergency control centre in Newcastle Police Station.
The purpose is to bring all the agencies, the liaison people together, and we can properly respond to issues as they arise.
And if there are any Y2K related problems, all information will filter through to the centre.
Contact the relevant emergency service agency, and that information will be passed on to this centre, and we'll be able to assess the crisis, allocate resources and control the situation.
Meanwhile, Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital will be the control centre for all of the region's health services during the crucial changeover period. The centre will continually update the State Health Department headquarters in Sydney throughout the night. But from all accounts, it's merely a precaution.
We're extremely confident that we'll process or proceed into the new year with a seamless and trouble-free situation.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
The very nature of the crime has stunned locals, many in despair something so horrendous could happen in their own backyards.
You just don't dream of anything like this sort of happening on your doorstep sort of thing. It is a terrible shock.
Most of the neighbours were too distraught to speak today, many of their children good friends and schoolmates, with a little girl who was a student at Pottsville Beach Primary.
You know, when the kids do get out and play around up the park together, and they all sort of know each other, probably more so than the adults.
Nicole Webb, NBN News.
New Year's Day racing, and with the first win of the century on the line, drivers were up to their old tricks and not giving an inch. In what was a thrilling final in the Super Sedans, Keith Sims held the lead from Newcastle's Greg Smith with 2 laps left before the cunning John Pine pounced to set up a thrilling final lap. It was a real battle of youth and experience. In contrast, the litre car feature was a one-horse race. In the V8 Dirt Modifieds, there was a bit of the normal biff and barge, but Scott Cannon kept out of trouble to take the checkered flag ahead of Scott Foy and Kevin Hopwood. Heat 4 of the International 500cc series, and sparks flew early, as did competitors. It didn't look any better in slow motion as Mick Poole, Jason Lyons and Nigel Sadler came together. Thankfully, all walked away shaken, not stirred. Mark Lemon not as lucky. This cost him a dislocated shoulder and the rest of the series. But 6 of the best headed out in the 4-lap final that proved a thriller. Australian Jason Krupp led with a lap to go, but it was to be an American's night. The 1993 World Champion let it hang out to celebrate in style. In the F500s, it was just a case of hanging on. Unlike his machine, Ken Norman escaped unscathed. West Australian Ken Satori led the way as a trio of sandgropers romped home to place 1, 2, 3 in the final. While the 500cc riders had looked like a demolition derby earlier, the real thing came out to show how it's done, much to the crowd's delight. Looking very much a battle zone, Donald Ross survived to take the winner's check.
With just a month to go until picking, the hunters' winemakers are gazing skyward and crossing their fingers, praying the rain will hold off. Higher than average rainfall has besieged the vineyards for the past 6 weeks, and if this trend continues over the rest of January, the crops could be damaged.
Always lap of the gods, I suppose. We are on the home straight at this stage, but between now and harvest, at the end of the month, anything can happen. A little bit more rain won't be a major drama. If it's not followed by some warm weather, well, we'll have difficulties then.
The homeward run to picking is always the most risky. It's too late to use chemical sprays to ward off crop-destroying moulds that go hand in hand with rain.
The rain will cause the grapes to swell a little bit more, and as a result we may have some bunch rot come in.
But if the gods do smile on the hunter, bringing fine weather, Wyndham Estate winemaker Howard Bourne predicts a bumper crop, producing top quality wines.
I believe we'll be seeing some good reds and some good whites from 2000 years.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
It's a scene often played out in TV series, lifeguards becoming law enforcers. But it was a real life drama for Nobby's Beach Inspector Warren Smith, who was hit by a van while chasing 2 teenagers following the theft of a bag from the beach.
Unlucky, I just happened to run into a car, and then after that a couple of the public members of the public pursued the people and caught them down past the pilot station.
Warren suffered bruises and scratches in the incident. The young pair was handed over to police, who are well aware of the upsurge in summertime crime.
They could be, just by having their gear on the beach, a possible victim of a theft, and by having that in mind, take a little bit more security when they come to the beach. Either bring the bare minimum or make sure it's locked up in a safe area.
New bags, towels and clothing like these are most inviting to thieves, but our Beach Watch warns you may not get away with it.
Yeah, we've caught 3 in about the last 5 weeks. They're still trying, but we're catching them more and more.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Maths, science, physics and English. Year 12 swatting is over for another year. But Terry Lovett from the University of Newcastle says the study of religions is now the fastest growing HSC subject.
I think in religious systems people have come to realise that a really good study of religion involves more than just studying one particular branch of religion.
He says figures don't necessarily reflect any spiritual growth amongst high school students, more a desire to understand religions like Buddhism, Judaism, Islam and Hinduism, which are gaining in popularity.
I think they're more interested in religion than perhaps 10 or 20 years ago, and as I suggest, feeling freer to study it without feeling as though somebody's going to ram something down their throat.
David McElwain, NBN News. Nine-year-old Scott Walsh, 6-year-old Philip Button and his big brother Shane are afraid to leave the front yard. They were playing in the bush at Windar when attacked by two men and robbed of their bikes.
We were catching lizards, and when we were going home these two people came out of the bush when they were hiding behind the trees, and then they said get off your bikes, and then me and Scott dropped our bikes and ran.
Philip only had his bike since Christmas, but he's glad to have made his escape.
They had the knife up like that and they were chasing us, and one of them had a red Nike hat and he had black hair and it was long.
And police are looking for 3 Pacific Islanders following a car chase which began in Maryville last night. Driving a stolen car, the men hit a median strip on Industrial Drive before stopping their car.
They then got out of the car, the 3 of them, and started to menace, or trying to menace the 2 police officers. One of the Pacific Islanders actually threw a punch at the police, which fortunately missed.
The men got back in the car, took off again, stopped suddenly and caused a collision with police. The 3 got away on foot, leaving shotgun cartridges behind. But police think they know 2 of them and believe they'll be making a quick arrest. The ocean's been like a washing machine cleaning sand from Newcastle's beaches. They were only just recovering from the last big swell, which was about 3 months ago.
Every time we get close to getting it built back up again, you get another big swell, and the high tides take it all in 3 days. 3 days of pounding the coast, and we lost a hell of a lot of sand.
3 days of red flags, high winds and water plagued with blue bottles that haven't stopped at the sand have spoiled one of the busiest times of the year for beachgoers. Crowds are down by 80% for the Christmas New Year period, and the persistent erosion of the beach will create its own problems when the weather does become more inviting.
It makes it quite dangerous at times because you've got to watch the different banks as they're moving from place to place. There's always sand moving all the time, so it keeps you on your toes a little bit.